During a runway show in Miami around this time last year, Kim Jones, artistic director of Dior Men's collections, unveiled the Air Dior shoe. He brought together three formidable brands for the first time: Dior, Nike, and Air Jordan brand, in a reinterpretation of the Air Jordan 1, considered by many to be the most important sneaker design in history. That alone would have made it an important fashion story in 2020, but of course there's more now. Originally, the shoe was meant to launch in mid-March and roll out in pop-ups all around the globe. But of course, coronavirus put paid to that, and the launch had to be delayed to July 1st. It was pared back to just two pop-ups, one at Selfridges, as on the screen here in London, and the other at the Taikoo Li shopping mall in Chengdu, China. The shoes, available in low tops and high tops, cost $2,000 and $2,200 US respectively. But still, in just 9 hours, more than 5 million people signed up for the draw for 8,500 pairs of shoes, and the remaining 5,000 pairs were reserved for Dior's top clients globally. In hindsight, the extended wait for the Air Dior might have actually boosted demand for the shoes themselves. And when I checked over the weekend, a size 7 pair of high-top Air Diors was selling for more than $25,000. Almost unheard of for a new sneaker, especially amid a once-in-a-century pandemic and economic crisis. This makes the Air Dior undoubtedly the most successful product launch in a very unusual year that 2020 has been. Some quick back-of-the-envelope math suggests that the two models of the Air Dior sneakers alone generated more than $26 million in primary revenue and probably millions more in secondary revenue on resale sites. So to unpick the success of the Air Dior, I sat down with Kim Jones a week or so ago to get the inside take on the making of Air Dior. Hello, Mr. Kim Jones.
Nice to see you.
How are you?
I'm really good.
It's been a crazy 8 months or so.
It's been crazy, but it's been busy.
Yeah.
And I've appreciated time at home and being able to have time to myself and reflect on what I've done and start my new job as well at Fendi. So a lot of time to research and prepare and be excited about things.
Yeah, a very eventful few months. But today we're here to talk about sneakers.
Yes.
What makes an amazing sneaker and what makes an amazing sneaker launch. And the Air Dior shoe, which we have right here, it's like the most sought after sneaker in the world right now.
Yeah.
I've been scouring the internet to kind of see what people are saying and how much they cost, and it's crazy how quickly they've accelerated in price. So I wanted to start with your own relationship with sneakers, because it goes back a long time. This is not a trend you just jumped on.
No, I mean, most people that know me know that I started out working at a company called Gimme 5 while I was at college. But before that, when I was a student and also when I was at school, Nike for me was the absolute must-have. And I'd save up and dishwash and do things like that, so I could go and buy a pair of sneakers. And people like Michael Jordan were the heroes, and just everyone was wearing sneakers. And me and my friends would chip in to buy pairs to share them. And I think
to share a pair of sneakers.
Yeah, I mean a pair of Jordan 5s that were on discount in a place in Brighton that we bought. We went 3 ways on them. I think they're £45, and we chipped in to buy them. And then we'd take them in turns to wear them, and obviously make sure no one stood on them and took care of them. Never allowed to go out, anywhere dirty in them. And it was just, it's the design. It was just like, it was a cult thing. It became a cult. And, I know that we both got these, which are one of the first pairs of the Jordans in the white and grey, which is the basis for the Air Dior. And the Air Dior thing was really, there's a guy in my studio called Thibaut, and I've had a contract with Nike for quite a few years, and then they talked to me about doing a Jordan, and I was like, I'd really love to do it with Dior because they've never done a luxury house with Jordan collaboration. So I thought, well, let's make an Italian, Jordan with the Dior factories and really make something special and exciting. And it's really, it was so I could wear a pair of Dior Jordans. That was really how it started. It was a bit selfish.
So before we get into the actual kind of design of the shoe, because I think there's a lot of thought that goes into that, of course, the Jordan 1, for like the uninitiated amongst us, I think, sneakerheads call it the AJ1.
Yeah.
Why is that such an important shoe silhouette?
I think it's just such a design classic. And for me, there's periods in Nike's history where there's been shoes that have come out like this or the Air Max 95 that just speak to people, and they speak to a generation of people. And for me, I didn't have the original pair of these because I was a bit too young for them, and they were really out of my price range, and they weren't so easy to get in the UK. And then as I sort of started going to Japan, as I graduated, I started collecting pairs. So I'd find them in a flea. I think the first pair I bought were $7 in a flea market in Oakland when I went to visit a friend when I was a student, and that was kind of, and it was just, oh my god, you got shaky and excited over them. They just become a fetish item. You just love the design. It's like joining a club, I guess. So
when you're thinking about, designing a shoe that has to balance effectively 3 different brands, right?
Yeah.
Jordan is its own brand now.
Exactly.
Completely, operated separately with its own team. Then there's Nike, which obviously gave birth to the Jordan.
Yeah.
And there's Dior. Those are 3 iconic brands. So when you're designing a shoe, and you have to balance the DNA of 3 brands.
Well, these was really we knew that it had to be made in Italy because that's one of the criteria of Dior. It's made in Italy or France. We knew the leather had to be sourced. We knew we wanted to have the finishings made a Dior bag would be made. So you have the edge painting, you have the way that things are hand finished in the sewing. The oblique here is made for a specific size, just for the Jordan, and it's scaled per size of Jordan. And you have it on the tongue, which is a new technique that we developed, and inside you have the leather sole unit inside, which they don't have in the normal Jordan. And then inside it had the numbers, or these are the ones from the Miami show, which there were literally 40 pairs of them. And really making them for people that would appreciate something and understand the craft. Because I think a lot of people now, in consumption, when you talk about fashion, I'm very aware of numbers and craft being important to people. I think young people are learning they want to buy less and they want to buy things that last longer. For me, doing things like this was something, it's a limited number of things, but it creates excitement.
Yeah, I read that there were only 13,000 pairs of the shoes made. But there was also a whole bunch of other SKUs in the collection, which maybe didn't get as much attention.
we looked at Michael Jordan's wardrobe when he was, because he was the coolest guy, and it was he wore suits all the time, and and we were looking at what, we made mood boards of his clothes, and then we had to go and present it all to him, which was kind of
really,
because he sees everything and approves everything for Jordan.
What was that like?
He was super lovely, and then I met him again in Chicago when we went to do the launch of it, and it was I was really impressed that he remembered who I was. To be honest, that's the sort of kid's dream, isn't it? I guess, and it was he was just really enthusiastic, and he wanted to keep some of the stuff, so we let him keep it. And Travis was there, and he was really into it. So, I promised Travis he'd be one of the first people to have it, and it was just, it was an appreciation for each other. I think that was the thing that was nice about it.
And then what did you have to say to the powers that be at Dior to get them? They've never done something like this before.
I went to Pietro, who's my CEO, and, we have an extremely good relationship. And then I spoke to Alex Arnaud, and I was like, I really want to do this. What do you think of it? And, he's in his mid-20s, and thought it was the coolest idea. He grew up, his hero is a basketball player, so that was pretty easy to do. Nike was a little bit harder, but then they got they got into it too. And it was just really managing the expectations of everybody in the right way, including the customer, making sure that the raffle system couldn't be bugged by, people wanting to resell straight away, because that's something that I can see frustrates people when they're buying things and want things. So, You know, we spoke to James at Supreme, who's the master of that, and, you know, we had a good network of people around to try and make it like that. But, you know, then things, you can't always control all of that. And, you know, you see things, you know, one pair was stolen from the show in Miami. I think they were sold for something like 55,000, even though there was security on every single pair. You know, when it was being packed up, that happened. But, you know, someone had a nice time with their money doing that. You know, I think that's how things go.
A lot happened since that launch in Miami, right? So even that was last December.
Yes.
Pre-COVID,
Yeah.
pre-lockdowns, pre-massive global economic crisis. How did the changes that happened in the world impact the way you and Pietro were thinking about taking the shoe to market, and the way Jordan brand got involved?
And well, we delayed it until it was, you know, an appropriate time also that was safe in most places around the world for people to be able to go and do it. You know, obviously it hasn't been safe, but, you know, when it's been less problematic, or very much with the, you know, making schedules in the stores for people to go and collect the shoes at separate times so that social distancing is respected and things like this. And, you know, I think generally I've had, and I do read feedback on Instagram and things, I've had really positive comments from customers and consumers saying, you know, this was handled really well, thank you. You get a few people that don't, but I like to make sure the customer's happy, because a happy customer will come back, you know, essentially. And it's like, you know, I interact with a lot of people that buy, you know, clothes and things that I work on, and, you know, I think about the kids that save up their money, and you want them to have the chance as well, because, you know, I was the kid that saved up their money to buy something as well.
Yeah, but these shoes were exceptionally expensive to begin with,
Yes.
right? So as you know, the model of luxury is usually that, you know, you have this kind of super high-end product that everyone aspires to, and then, you know, that desire trickles down to other products. Could you imagine, you know, a wider release, or, you know, a broader, more broadly available shoe that was more accessible from a price standpoint?
Well, we were talking about the potential of a second idea of that, but that's not, at the moment, that's not in discussion, purely because of what's happening on in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the moment I'm focusing on Dior, because, I mean, we've had a very good year, thankfully, because people are loyal customers. I couldn't be luckier in that sense, but I'm aware it's been extremely tough. And, you know, we've also looked at the way we design and how things go to market, and, you know, we've had very good online sales. I don't know if you online shop. I don't online shop so much. I like the shopping experience just because it's kind of fun. And I do, you know, one of the things I do when I go around the world is I love to go shopping in other countries, particularly Japan, which
Me too.
I'm really missing. It's like they always have the sizes you can't get anywhere else. It's
Exactly.
like so it's kind of, you know. But I just you know, I was aware it was an expensive thing, and, you know, I did actually, you know, I have godchildren and friends that have children, and, you know, I bought them all pairs for Christmas, and that was like, you know, so and they give me the information I need on, you know, what's cool in the market, because they're the kids that are there, you know.
Yeah, so what is cool in the market? This whole, like, streetwear meets luxury space has just exploded in the last few years. Where do you see that going?
I just see, you know, it's like, when it, you know, I always think of you as quite a formally dressed guy, but then you're wearing Comme des Garçons Air Forces.
Yeah.
And it's just the mix of comfort and easiness in daily life, I think. I think, you know, I love wearing a tailored coat and tailored pants, but then the rest of my, you know, it's either knitwear or a jersey piece, and it's just, because when you're working, quite often when it's with your hands, it's like easy. So I have a uniform that I work with, but people like to mix things up. I think it's just this thing, you know, and also, you know, people recycling things and customizing things. You know, there's a lot of things going forward, and, like, you know, when I do wardrobe clear outs, which is quite often, you know, all my friends' kids come over and they help me tidy up everything, and then go home with bags full of stuff. And it's like, you know, and it's just interesting to hear what they say about things, because that's the future generation of people buying, and I'm always interested in that.
Yeah, it's so interesting to talk to that generation about buying, you know, vintage or renting clothes. You know, when I grew up, you know, going to a vintage store was a bit, you know, looked down upon. We had this place in Calgary where I grew up called Value Village, and you could get the best, like, denim Levi's that were worn out the perfect way. My parents thought it was crazy that I would go there.
Yeah.
But it's become such a part of the way young people shop, I think for two reasons. One, because you can get something that nobody else has. And two, it's just more sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So as someone who's now creating objects, products, clothes that might not be just for one customer, that might live for a long time, does that change the way you think about designing clothes?
Not at all. I like the fact that, you know, it's like there's quite a few people that have grown up, you know, from when I graduated, that have gone from being a Kim Jones customer that was a young kid to being now a Dior customer via Dunhill and Vuitton, etc. And, you know, like quite often when I'll give someone a coat and then they're like, oh, my son really loved that coat, so I've given it to him. You know, he's walking around in a really nice top coat, and I think that's kind of cool. And I like the idea of things handed down through generations. I think, you know, the thing about luxury that I like is it's clothes that are built to last, and there's not that many made of things. And so, you know, I care about the world a lot, so it's something that I do consider that there's not much waste in terms of we don't have tons of stock left over. We don't have massive amounts of things made. It's made in an area, you know, in Europe. Everything's produced in an area where we know it is, and it's like, so, you know, kids want to know that. And, you know, they will ask me, where's this from, where's that from? And I'll ask those same questions. And I think it's just, you know, social duty, really.
Amazing that you've managed to kind of channel so many of your passions through the work you do. At Fendi, is there an angle as well?
There is, but I can't talk about that yet.
All right.
I'm not allowed to talk about that until I've done a show.
Okay.
But yeah, the first show is very personal.
Okay.
But it's respecting the past.
Okay.
Because I love Sylvia as well. So, you know, that's someone that wanted me to be there. So I'm very happy to be there. And it's fun to do two things.
Okay. With lots of young people watching, probably look up to you.
Yeah.
And either they want to be designers or they want to be artists, or they, you know, what advice or wisdom would you share with them about being able to realize and pursue your passions?
Never think about the money. Think about doing the job. Work hard. Don't think about social media. Think about the actual reality, and just get on with it. And ask questions. I ask questions all the time, and that's how I've learnt so much. And I always ask questions whenever I see my CEO or anyone I find interesting. I want to know as much as possible about them.
Okay, well, that's good advice.
Cool.
Give me an elbow bump.
Thank you. We're lovely
All right.
to see you.